Hi everyone, my name is Liya and I'm part of the team at Reinventure VC and I'm a chapter lead at Oz DeFi Association. Before we kick off today's discussion, I'm going to ask you a question. What do these people have in common? Tyra Banks, Paris Hilton, Mila Kunis, Gwyneth Paltrow, and me. Anyone? Yes, thank you. BFF. Who's heard of BFF? Hands up. Yeah, pretty good. So joining us today, we have Chief BFF, co-founder, Jaime Schmidt. Really excited for this chat. Let's kick off. Do we have Jaime?
Hi.
Hi, Jaime. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me.
It's so great to have you. I'm really excited for our chat today.
Me too.
Welcome to NFT Fest. Okay, before we dive into BFF stuff, let's start with your journey before BFF. So Jaime 2.0, you have a rich history behind you as an entrepreneur. You are a very successful founder. You had an exit. You've written a book. Talk us through that. So your journey before and how you got into Web3.
Yeah, I started out as a Web2 entrepreneur. But before I became an entrepreneur, I was a maker, creator, artist, living in Portland, Oregon. It's the most creative city in this country. And it was my way of fitting in, was to make something. And I was also at this turning point in my career where I wanted to do something a little more meaningful. I had been working my way up the corporate ladder, wanted to do something a little more hands-on and creative, but didn't know what that looked like, and started getting my hands dirty with a number of things. And what I landed on was making personal care products. I was also pregnant at the time, so it just made sense that I was using healthier products on my body, and started making things and selling them at the farmers markets. And when I first started, it was more a hobby, something to do for fun. Somewhat interested in the business potential, but didn't quite realize what that was until I started getting feedback from customers who were raving about the product, asking where they could find it in stores. Next thing you know, I'm building a big global brand, selling in 30 countries across 30,000 different retailers. And so something that started in my kitchen and scaled to this, global phenomenon was a pretty wild experience. And I think it really gave me the perspective for what I needed to start BFF and, to understand what it really means to support creators, what it means to build something, as an artist who, starts from very little. And so it was sort of a beautiful transition, but one that I never anticipated. And so, yeah, fun to be up here talking about it.
And I think BFF is not even your first Web3 adventure, right? You started another business before that.
Yeah, so after the acquisition, my company was acquired 7 years after I started it by Unilever. And at that time, I was in a position where I thought, okay, what more can I do? And one of the things I did was start an investment fund. I also hosted a number of conversations with other entrepreneurs on Clubhouse. This was a few years ago when Clubhouse was a thing, and it was the perfect opportunity to bring together builders across different industries and just talk and learn from one another. I did that alongside my husband and business partner, Chris Cantino. The two of us called it Club CPG, just made sense. And throughout that experience, we really built up a network of people who were building in the consumer space. And then fast forward a couple of years into all this Web3 opportunity, and we saw a chance to create an NFT collection alongside or as part of this club. So we launched crypto packaged goods. Really excited to bring together people at the intersection of consumer and Web3. We saw a lot of opportunity there for brands to jump in, for creators to really take advantage of this new technology. And so with that NFT collection, crypto packaged goods, we really brought together mentors across both sides, Web3 and consumer. And that was where I really got my feet wet in the space and realized there was so much more I could do. And then with this opportunity with BFF, I thought, I really want to have an impact on those generally overlooked by traditional systems. And so really targeting women, non-binary people, and just others who are, see themselves more at the outskirts of, of where Web3, kind of interest started.
Amazing, and I think BFF is, a leading sort of project in diversity and onboarding women and non-binary people into the space, which is awesome. Could you talk a little bit about sort of what BFF is? And I guess I'm more interested in the why as well, because it's really important work that you're doing, very successful community. Could we spend a few minutes on that?
Yeah, I was approached by my co-founder, Britt Morin. She's another entrepreneur who had done a lot of work enabling opportunities for women. So the two of us had connected, on different levels and had a lot in common. And we both were really excited about the opportunities in Web3. And we thought we need to do something here. We have, a network of some of the founding BFFs that you had mentioned earlier, some bigger names to support the cause. And just this really sincere desire to do something meaningful and to bring more people in. And the time was right. We came up with the idea late last year. It was when the market was on fire, and we said, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it now. So things came together pretty quickly. And then in January of this year, we had our kickoff event, which was on YouTube. We had about 5,000 people show up who were very, very new to Web3, crypto. Many knew nothing about it, but they just knew that there was opportunity here to be explored. And so with that event, we got a lot of interest. We started with a free NFT for everybody who showed up. So that's our friendship bracelet that a lot of you probably have heard of. We airdropped those to everybody in attendance, and then also partnered with some other communities that resonated with our cause to get them into the community as well. So fast forward, a few months, we had this beautiful community of a lot of newbies. Some we had held their hands through the wallet setup, right? BFF was their first NFT, and they didn't even know, how to buy crypto. And so as part of that first onboarding event, we walked them through it. And so, as I said, several months in, we had a community that was starting to learn and became a lot more curious. And then we launched our PFP collection called You. So that was a really cool opportunity for everybody who was one of our earliest holders of the BFF bracelet to mint their first PFP. So the education just continued as we, as the community scaled and grew. So today, we still have this really engaged community of people ready to learn. We started with the goal of onboarding, and then that is very much at the heart of what we do. But, we also, now that we have people onboarded, our goal is to continue to educate those people. And so we do a lot in the way of content. I'll pause there and I'll probably get into that more in a bit.
Absolutely. And I speak to a lot of women in the space, and a lot of them actually mention the BFF video as a gateway and how they got into Web3, which is amazing. And yeah, leading on to that, I wanted to ask, how do you find that balance? You obviously have this amazing global community, very engaged community, but being sort of a mega onboarder, so to speak, how do you find the balance between onboarding people, but then having the depth of content, I guess, to make people stick around?
Yeah, I'm proud to say that we won the award at NFT NYC in the summer for best onboarding experience for new users. So that was really cool. It was validation, that what we were doing was working. So that felt amazing, right? Like that's what we set out to do. But then, as I mentioned, now that we have all these people onboarded, like how do we keep them engaged? How do we keep adding value? So we have a really intense content strategy. We have a number of Twitter spaces every week where we talk about different topics across Web3, not just about NFTs and kind of what's trending, right in front of us, but also like digging deeper into like how the applications can be used across different industries. Some things really resonate with people, other topics other people are really drawn to. And so our goal is to really make sure we're reaching everybody in the community with diverse interests across Web3. So in addition to those spaces, we also do a lot of content sharing across all media platforms. We have a newsletter, which we're really proud of, where we go deep into what is trending that week. Also some in-depth interviews with some of our founding BFFs and other leaders in the community. And across the space, we have a content studio on our website called BFF Discover, where we go even deeper into some of these topics. And so content is very much at the heart of what we do. We don't consider ourselves a media company, though at face value, we sort of look like one. But that's just one pillar of what gets us excited and what we think is important for keeping people inspired and hopeful about the future of Web3.
Amazing. And you've mentioned that content is only one of the pillars, so I would like to sort of now shift towards utility. And that was a buzzword back in April and May, and all we were talking about is utility. But you sort of have different layers within BFF, content being one of them. But then you have the perk shop, which is, I think, was a very innovative product when it came out. I'm a member of BFF. I thought it was awesome. For those in the audience who don't know, it's basically a catalog, like an online shop where you can go as a member and see all the discounts you get on physical products, digital products, allow lists. And by physical products, I mean things like makeup and clothing. And then you've got other things, Jaime, like the clubs, which are more education focused. How do you think about utility? How does that decision-making process work for you? Sort of how do you determine where to take it, I guess, and what utility to provide?
I think for any community, what's most important with utility is having, a base, like a utility that your community will always come back to or knows will be there. But then also adding things as you go and, surprising your community and keeping an open approach is like if you want to add something unexpectedly that's not necessarily in your roadmap, right? So it's, having a concrete plan, but also not being too rigid where you don't have the freedom to kind of, go off and do fun new things over time. And so for BFF, those, I think the biggest utility pillars are, of course, the education piece. A lot of that is actually open and not necessarily token gated. And so we try to have a mix there. In terms of the token gated utility, you mentioned our clubs. Those are basically interest groups within the community where the members meet up. We have workshops that are specific to their interests. We go deep on specific topics. So for example, we have our entrepreneurs club, our creatives club, and our coders club. And we have different guest speakers show up. We have hands-on opportunities to really, as I said, go deep in some of these interest areas. And then also you mentioned our perk shop. That's something we're really proud of. To date, we might have just crossed 50,000 perks claimed on our shop, which is pretty incredible. The perks started as benefits to U holders based on the traits that were in their PFPs. And so we thought it would just be a fun bonus for some of our holders to be able to claim things based on, whether if their NFT maybe had a certain hairstyle or, a certain article of clothing or whatever it might be. And then we've been building on that since. And so a lot of our perks have come to include access to other community drops. We have, as you mentioned, some physical goods. Some of those are trait specific. Some are open to everybody. Some are based on raffles. We have event access. We have sessions with our founding BFFs where people can learn and have more intimate conversations. And so we're just scratching the surface of what we can do with perks. And I think, there's a lot of potential for the future of BFF kind of tied into those opportunities too.
Awesome. You started in January, very, very different market now, but also the brand has evolved, right? So as the brand sort of matures and you grow into yourself, could you tell us a little bit more about sort of how it started versus how it's going? How has the roadmap changed? How did you have to pivot as a founder and as a business to adapt to the changing circumstances, market and otherwise?
Mm-hmm. One thing that I think is a blessing with the bear market is that's forced everybody to sort of slow down. A lot of communities, BFF being one of them, were really tied up in hype, right? We had to stay competitive. We had to, keep showing value and move at this very quick pace. And it's not healthy, for communities, not healthy for businesses. And so, as challenging as the bear market is in many ways, it also is very opportunistic in the sense that people, we can take a step back, think about the value that we're really trying to provide to our community and doing it in the most thoughtful, intentional way. So that's one of the biggest learnings I think that every community is up against. And also, we have evolved over time as the community evolves. Anytime a project will mint, there'll be a lot of people in it just, maybe to make a profit. And then those that stick around, are generally there for the utility or the connections that they make within the community. And so as those communities start to shake out, you really start to understand like who's really in it for the long term. And you think about like, how can I build specifically for that group? So we are really excited actually about what we're calling phase 2 of BFF, where we're going a little deeper into some of the specific interests of our community and really expanding on our mission to not just onboard into web3, but to think about how web3 fits into a bigger strategy in terms of investments, in terms of career opportunities and entrepreneurial pursuits. So lots going on that we'll be launching next year that will start teasing.
Amazing.
Teasing in a way that without too much hype, right? That's the trick, I think in this space is to let people know that you're working on really cool, big, exciting things, but to do it without, relying too much on that hype that like comes and goes and gets a little bit overwhelming for people. So
Absolutely. And I guess as a Web3 brand, you actually are very involved in a variety of partnerships with both the Web2 brands, but also more traditional brands. We've mentioned consumer goods before. How do you find those interactions? Being sort of an NFT project or a Web3 brand, is there a certain level of education that is involved in trying to get into these partnerships, onboard these brands into the space? Could you talk a little bit to that?
yeah, we definitely get a lot of interest from brands and other communities to partner, which is awesome, but also kind of overwhelming. So we look at what resonates most with our mission and our overall goals for the community. And so partnership has always been at the heart of what we do and making sure we're doing it in the most thoughtful way. In terms of you mentioned Web2 brands, sort of exploring opportunities in Web3 through BFF. Yeah, we've done a lot of that specifically through the perk shop, right? We have some like CPG companies who have partnered up to offer perks. They might not necessarily have their own, Web3 strategies in place yet, but a partnership with BFF is sort of a safe and comfortable way for them to kind of test the waters. So I think, have opened up, a lot of brands' eyes to the opportunities and to the potential, and partnering with some of these bigger communities, which I think is really promising overall for the space.
Amazing. And behind every strong brand and every strong company is a very strong team. And you have an incredible team. I think they're incredibly aligned with your values and with the ethos of the brand. We have Renee, who's your community manager, in the front row today, and a few of the members of the community are actually here as well, who I've met throughout the NFT Fest. Running sort of a global, and Web3 has this, it's on steroids. You've got these global teams, async working, various time zones. How do you manage that? Because your team is not actually that large, right? Like you've got a number of people, but how does it work for you?
Yeah, we depend on Slack. To be honest, that's very much at the heart of our operations. But it takes a certain type of employee and a certain type of leadership, I think, to be able to make that work, across time zones, as you say. There's a lot of trust that goes into, the team management. There's a lot of autonomy that's granted to our employees. And we really truly have the best people working for us. I really do believe it. Hi, Renee. Hi, Anne, if you're there. And it's just keeping an open conversation, encouraging feedback. Like maybe somebody sends a Slack in the middle of the night for somebody, but understanding that it's not going to be answered, if somebody's not on schedule. And just, one thing that's always been important to me as a leader is having benefits, right? Like it's not that common across Web3 communities, and specifically like NFT projects, is to literally offer health insurance and pay time off and things to your employees. And for me, that was important from day one to work that into the budget. And so I'm proud to say that we do our best to take care of the team. And yeah, it's, I think international boundary, or I guess barriers, are not much of an issue for us, and it's really refreshing. And especially I came from a background of Web2, right? We had a manufacturing facility that I had built and was maintaining, and so showing up to work every day. And so it's a bigger challenge to be able to build overseas like this, but I've been happy with the results, and a lot of that is just thanks to the awesome employees that we have.
And I think that really kind of translates then into and trickles down into your community, because your team is really a face of the project. So that's, kudos to you. Jaime, in terms of long-term success, I mean, in this space, it often feels like you're building on shifting sand. Everything is changing constantly. How do you think about sort of building a sustainable business and building for the long term in Web3?
Yeah, fortunately, that's very much at the core of kind of who I am. And I attribute that a lot to my past success as an entrepreneur or past experience. My first company, as I mentioned, I started as a hobby, and I was forced to build sustainably. I didn't go out and raise VC money. I had, no real strong business plan in place or no, outcome that I was working towards. It was more like, I love what I'm doing. I'm keeping, customers happy on the daily, and I just want to sort of keep doing this at my own pace. And so that mentality is really transferred over to, my building BFF, and my, business partner, Britt Morin, has, the similar thinking. And from day one, we've always approached this, as a brand, as a business, and not just as, a project, that we were releasing just to be part of the NFT hype. It was more, what can we do that's sustainable? We didn't know what sustainability really looked like in the beginning because the space moves so quickly, but we knew what we were doing, we wanted to do for the long haul. And that's still very much in our thinking. And, we strategize constantly. We have our heads down, always thinking about, what's the next move and how can we stay relevant now, but also be thinking about the future and do it in a way that where we will be around for a really long time, and be one of the leading brands in Web3. And yeah.
This has been incredible, Jaime. I would like to finish off by quoting a tweet that you tweeted out earlier today. A recent survey of my BFF community showed that 91% are women and 38% are entrepreneurs. Imagine the possibilities. 2023.
Yeah.
So could you wrap us up by telling us what is next for my BFF and what is this cryptic tweet about?
Yeah, that's a peek into, some of the things that we're thinking about. I did mention, what we see as the future of BFF really being, very much Web3 centric, but also understanding that Web3 and crypto are one part of, a bigger strategy for a fulfilling career, for opportunities in entrepreneurship and for, investment portfolios too, right? So we're looking at ways to really support our community in a more holistic way, with, Web3 technology at the heart of it. So our 1-year anniversary is in January, and we'll be sharing more. We're going to do another event, mirroring off of the one we did this year. And yeah, it'll be fun to look back on everything we accomplished over the year and to talk a little more about what's to come.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jaime. Thank you. Round of applause for Jaime. Thank you.
Thank you.